All right. Hi, I'm Dave Henning with the Fresh Start Podcast, fresh ideas for business and personal growth. And I'm very excited to have my guest today, Lee Yoder from down on the farm in Ohio. I grew up on my grandfather's farm, so warm spot in my heart for living on the farm. So welcome. Good to have you with us. And I want to give a big shout out to Dave Foster, my young life buddy, who was on my podcast a couple of times, for referring me to you. So
Yeah,
let's go ahead and get started. Tell us a little bit about kind of your background. I've been on your website and got the story, the down. What do you say? Download. That's an old fashioned word. So
mhm.
anyway, let me stop talking and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, sure, Dave. Happy to be here. Yeah, I did grow up on a farm. My wife and I and our kids, we kind of have a mini farm now, so we're like pretend farming. We're trying to get there. We'd love to get more land, but that's expensive, as everybody knows. But yeah, I grew up on a farm. Then I went to a small college, played some football, and got a degree. Well, undergrad was in physical therapy. Had to go to grad school then for 3 years. They make us get our doctorate in physical therapy. So I came out a physical therapist and was working in an outpatient clinic like that. Was fun work, but we had to be open later. So, if you and I, Dave, when we get off work, if we want to go, we're going to go after work. So we had to be open later. And so as my wife and I were starting our family, thought, oh, this isn't the best schedule. What else is there? And so a year in, I started doing home health physical therapy where I'm driving around to people's homes, treating them. And that was a great schedule. So my wife loved that. It was great for the family. I just got really bored pretty fast. So just felt like, well, this is not what God created me to do. Got to be something else. So I think divine intervention would have it. I was with a company that I didn't really, I didn't do as much research as I should have, but it was actually a staffing company. I came on as a contract therapist, which was fine, but they ended up bringing me in the office as a clinical director. I jumped at that opportunity. They asked me to do that, and so I'm now managing therapists, and pretty soon I'm doing no physical therapy. I was just managing a bunch of therapists. I was doing a lot of like director of operations type of stuff. I was selling, doing sales, all that kind of stuff. And it was a startup company. So I was really helping build a division. So now, Dave, I'm in a spot where I love the work I'm doing. I feel like, man, this is what I was created to do. Unfortunately, like it was kind of the other end of the spectrum as far as like good for the family. So now I'm, really working, a lot more hours and a lot less flexibility. So whereas my home health job was like perfect for the family, but I wasn't fulfilled, wasn't challenged. Now I'm like challenged, fulfilled. It's exciting, and it's not great for the family. So, did that for a couple of years though, and really enjoyed a lot of it, learned a lot, but just started getting to a point where I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do this for the long haul. Maybe there's something else out there, but like I do not want to go back to home health physical therapy. And I thought, is that my only choice, is to do a job that's great for the family, but I don't enjoy it, or do a job that I really enjoy, but not great for the family? And so we're just kind of wondering like what else is out there, and start reading some business books. People refer me to Read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that book for me and others were like, there is a different way. There is another option. Your options aren't just to work a job, and maybe it's a job that's good flexibility, or maybe it's a job that's really consuming and what's good for your family. Like there's a whole different way to do things, and in part like entrepreneurship is I kind of got from that. So I thought, well, what else, what is there? And then, the real estate too, because I grew up kind of around that. My dad's in construction. I grew up doing construction stuff. So real estate kind of spoke to me. So yeah, I started talking to some other people of like, how could I get into real estate? And I had a buddy of me that gave some good advice. And he's like, how could you get more flexibility in your job? Well, again, my current job, where I was kind of climbing the corporate ladder, working for a startup company, there was no way to get more flexibility. I mean, you really had to be all in on that job, which is kind of what I liked about the job, but didn't give me the family life. So I decided, Dave, to go back to home health physical therapy, which was a job that I did have a lot of flexibility, a lot of margin. But in that, I was going to do real estate on the side. I was going to start a real estate side hustle. So I left that job at the end of 2016. In the fall of 2017, I got my first house to flip, started doing real estate on the side, been doing it ever since. Now I do it full time, and we buy apartment buildings. So a lot in between there, but that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
Yeah, well, you actually have figured out a very unique way to do this with the threefold concept, and basically managing whole apartment complexes, which is different from the typical, well, Grant Cardone does a certain amount of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, I guess.
Yep.
He's got a bunch of them.
Yep.
But all that to say, you figured out a way to go. Tell us what threefold means.
Yeah, sure. It's over my shoulder here, but I don't know if you can see it in the camera. But it's from the book of Ecclesiastes, and what it talks about in Ecclesiastes in this verse is that one man will easily fall, two men might be able to hold up, but a three cord strand is not easily broken. So three people together or three parts are really make it strong. And my wife and I, as we were kind of thinking about the business and really wanting to lead with our faith, and just what does this business mean to us? What do we want it to be? We had another friend kind of talk about that verse, and there's a lot of great business advice in the book of Ecclesiastes. I would encourage anyone to read that book. Really great business, but just life advice from a guy who was kind of on top of the world, and at the end of his life, in King Solomon, like looking back and like, what does it all mean and stuff. But for us, what that means, Dave, a couple things, but like it's us, it's our internal threefold team, and then we work with our investors. And then we work with and then we've got God. So we just feel like our investors are a biggest part of our team. We can't go buy these properties without them. But then for us, there's got to be an eternal aspect of it, Dave. We serve a higher purpose. We want this to mean more. My wife has always really pushed that. She's like, Lee, you just talk to me about numbers. You just talk about dollars and cents. It's got to be more than that. And of course, I agree with that. So that's what threefold means to us, is that, we want to build this great business. We want to partner with investors, bring them along, and they bring us along. It takes both of us, but we really want to keep our focus on God and like, what does it mean to do this well? What does it mean to be good stewards of our money? What does it mean to serve our residents well? We're really big into that. God has put these people right in front of us in the buildings that we are taking ownership of and running. So how can we serve them? So that's kind of a lot, but that's kind of what threefold means.
That's fantastic. Yeah, there's an eternal value in John Maxwell, my friend, said leadership is influence, and you're talking about influence people's lives, both your tenants and your investors. And so is this these are do I take it these are like long-term rentals?
Yeah, yes, all long-term residents. Yeah, 1-year leases.
Okay. And sounds like that has worked out well for you, and you do some special things for your residents, I understand. Is that right?
Yeah, we try to. Yeah, we'd love to do more. We want to continue to grow into this, but yeah, we've got residents that we hope they stay for a long time. We hope to own a lot of these properties for a decade, and we hope the residents would stay for that long. It makes our job a lot easier.
Sure.
So if we can provide them a really good place to live, maybe they'll do that. But yeah, just around the holidays, we'll always pick a property or two or three, and we'll, usually it's just a handout. We like to just give these like little kind of goodie bags where we'll just put something, that goes along with the season. Like, Christmas, we might put some hot chocolate in there and some mints and just a little note. Usually that goes along with the Bible verse. And so it's really not much, Dave, but the idea behind it is really just to, help our residents to know someone's thinking about them, someone cares about them, that, we see them. It's a little bit more to us than just, hey, just make sure you pay your rent on time. We've had different events at the properties. We had a food, not a food truck, but a shaved ice truck, like snow cones. Did that, and then we grilled a bunch of hot dogs, and I think we had chips and stuff and water and all that. But just an event where the property managers could come out as well and get all the residents out. We had people coming from other properties, which was fine. Because they heard about it. But we've done a Christmas event at one where we're just handing out, again, hot chocolate, coffee, cookies that we had made and stuff like that. And the residents really like that. So yeah, just things like that. When we had a fire at one property. So we gave some gift cards to those residents, just try to help them, through that time. And anytime we do like a bunch of construction projects, we try to do like a thank you for your patience gift, just because we just did that at one, because we did the parking lots and we did the roofs, and that's going to benefit the residents. I mean, they're probably happy about that, but it's a lot of noise, and they couldn't park in the parking lot for a couple of days. So, we did kind of like a thank you and just some cookies that said thank you and our logo and stuff like that. Again, and kind of a nice note to just let them know we're thinking about them and they mean something to us.
Well, the verse that pops into my mind is going the extra mile.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you've done in this respect. You're connecting with people. You're you're in touch with them, that you're honoring them,
Yeah, I
and
hope so.
and even on the small gifts. There's another verse in the Bible that talks about don't despise the day of little things,
Mm.
and it can be little or big, but that they know you're there for them. So you have what, about 288, 300 units right now, something like that?
Yeah, right around there. We sold a couple and then we bought one. So we're sitting at 255 right now because we sold 2 this summer and bought one, 255. And yeah, that's where we sit right now.
So does this still involve like flipping houses as well?
No,
No.
nope, just apartments. Yep, we're all in on multifamily now.
And then what does this look like on the investor side of things? Tell us a little bit more about how that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So we don't have, our job is to go find great assets, find great investment opportunities in apartments. And then once we get them, operate them really well and create that cash flow, create that equity and that wealth generation for us and our investors. But we can't buy these apartment buildings by ourselves. I'm not independently wealthy yet, Dave. Don't have all that. So but that's what's fun, Dave. I mean, I started in the small stuff. So I started with the duplex and then we did a 16 unit. And with that 16 unit, I only needed one investor. So my in-laws came in with us. And that was the first time we had someone come in with us. So we did the duplex on our own and some flips on our own. But we made a bunch of money in that. But so did my in-laws. And so that was really neat. And I thought, man, I want to do more of this. And that's all a syndication is. So we go to, family, friends, but then it's really grown to a lot of other people as well. We always do the type of syndication where we have to have a relationship with our investors first, which I like. So we don't only take accredited investors, which kind of means you're wealthy. It's like you have $1 million net worth or you make a lot of money, $200,000 or $300,000 a year. But we take non-accredited investors as well. So we have to have a relationship with them first. So it's people that we have a relationship with, but it might be through some of the local real estate meetups. It might be people that hear me on this podcast, Dave, and we'll just develop a relationship even over the phone, and we have a lot of material. And once they get comfortable, they jump in with us. So we bring the deal, we bring the operations, they bring the capital, and we give them, more than half of the property. So they get a lot of the equity. They get most of the cash flow, if not all of it early on. Because the way we do it, and a lot of people do, we offer a preferred return, which just means the investors get paid first. And so they get all of the cash flow until they receive a certain amount of return on their investment, maybe 6%, 7%. A lot of times we do 8%. So once the investors have all gotten an 8% return, then we split the profit. So then we get to make some. So we really have to make sure they're making money first. And then, at the end, if we sell or we refinance, then we have a big cash out that everybody gets to benefit in.
So how long are they in for the long haul?
Yep. Yeah. So it's usually going to be at least 3 years, probably 5 years. At that point, Dave, we might sell. So we sell, everybody makes money, we're all happy, and we can go get another deal. We also could refinance. If we were to refinance after 5 years, likely the investors should get all of their money back, but they still get to stay in the deal. So that's kind of the real, I like that model. We haven't gotten that. We've sold a couple. We haven't refinanced. So probably next summer we'll be doing a couple refinancings. But that way the investors can get all their money back. All the risk is off the table, but they still own the same amount of the deal. So they still get all that cash flow. They're still building equity, but they've got all their money back. So they can take that and go get another deal if they want to. I always tell them about just plan on 5 years. And then at that point, we'll either sell or refinance.
Excellent. I must say. So you're in a big sports area of Ohio, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, our Bengals are 0-2, but we're just slow, starting off slow. We're going to crank it back up.
I have nieces and nephews down in the Cincinnati area, and they love their baseball team.
Baseball too. Yep, baseball. Yeah, we don't have a basketball team, but Reds have played well recently. Bengals are good. We got the Buckeyes. I'm a big sports fan.
Yeah, my nephew went to Ohio State for a while, and so very familiar with that. So, what's the most important thing that you'd like to communicate with those that are listening and viewing today?
I guess I could take that a lot of different directions. But one thing I'd say, Dave, that I feel like the Lord has taught me through all this is just that our God is often very slow moving, and that's real hard for me. So the way I'm kind of wired, flipping would probably, fit me a little bit better because, you can flip them over quick and you just, new deal all the time. Multifamily investing is not like that. I mean, you're doing pretty good, at least where I'm at. Like, we're pretty happy if we get 2 apartment buildings a year, maybe 3. So it feels like we go a long time sometimes without getting another deal. And I'm kind of a deal junkie, and I like getting the new shiny object, getting the new deal. But in that, there are large rewards, big profits for those who can stick it out. And even, getting this business going. So this just speaks to entrepreneurship. It takes a long time to get something going. And I really believe in the compound effect, where you got to work for a long time and you just don't see much benefit. And it feels like you're not doing anything. But if you just stick with it, what you'll find out, I believe, is that you are building up a ton of momentum, and it does eventually click in. I mean, Dave, I think I'm a good example. In my first full year of trying to get into real estate, I flipped 1 house. So we had done 1 unit. In the next full year, we did 1 duplex. So we went from 1 to 2. In the third year, so 2 years in, Dave, I've only done 2 properties. Like, to me, that's really, really slow. Like, I wanted to flip 15 homes by then, right? So I just felt like we were moving so slow, but we were building all this momentum. And in year 3, we got a 16 unit, an 8 unit, and a 10 unit. So we went from 2 the year before to 34. Now, it took us that whole next year to reposition those. But the year after that, we went out and bought 188 units in apartments. So, after 2 years, it felt like I'd made very little progress. But then, boom, we just kind of hit this speed burst in year 3. And then it took another year to get that. But then we're off to the races doing apartments. And, after 2 years, I could have never dreamed where we'd be today. It felt like we were moving so slow, but I stuck with it. I kept plowing ahead. And I just felt like God was teaching me that, sometimes it takes a long time, but you got to stick with it. And man, that's just really true in business, especially entrepreneurship, I think. So I would just encourage people in that, because you might be trying to get something started and it might feel like you're not making any progress because you don't have sales yet, or you haven't bought property yet, but man, if you're doing all the right things and you just keep doing it, you're building momentum. It's going to take off at some point.
I interview a lot of entrepreneurs from around the world, Silicon Valley and all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the old joke. He was an overnight success after 30 years.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it is.
Well, Albert Einstein said the 7th or 8th wonder of the world is compound interest.
I know.
But then the book of Romans, it talks about the persistence and perseverance.
Yep.
And keep moving forward, and that all ties together. There's so many, some people might not understand the book that we've come to love as our personal lifestyle, but there's so much massive wisdom to be found in a book, in the book that is the bestseller, the number 1 bestseller in the entire world. After 2,000 plus years.
Yeah.
What else can I talk about here? That what question should I ask that I haven't even asked you yet? Can you think of a question that you'd like to answer?
Yeah, the big thing on my mind, David, just as far as entrepreneurship goes, like, I've really been trying to make the transition over the past 6 months, even the past year, going from being a solopreneur to a CEO of a company. So we've kind of got off the ground. When I was doing the flip and the duplex, of course, that was just kind of by myself and with my wife, me and my wife. And then, we did the small multifamilies and we brought in some investors, but it was still just my wife and I. Then we started syndicating and I got a business partner, but we were still very like solopreneur. It was just us. We weren't building a business. We weren't hiring people. Now that we've gotten some properties, and we actually brought property management in house, which is a whole nother can of worms, but it's going well. And I don't love doing it, but I love that we're doing it. I think it's really good for our residents and our investors. And I think it's going to be good for us as a company. But I'm trying to shift now, Dave, to like really trying to think like a CEO, not try to have my hands in everything, but train other people. And I'm really not a great teacher or manager. So I'm really working on that, because I just realized like I'm going to reach my ceiling. Maybe I already have, of what I can really do where I'm the one, like the puppet master controlling all the strings. Like I just really have to start handing stuff off. And it's been a tough transition. I don't think of myself as like a control freak. And I think in a lot of ways I'm not. I'm pretty quick to hand stuff off, but I just still like, I'm just not that good at it yet. So yeah, I think that's the next phase of my entrepreneurial journey, business building journey, because I just feel like I got to start building a team. I got to bring in other people, and I really have to train them and empower them. And it's amazing when you see it happen. When I am doing something that I hate doing and I forget to do it a bunch of times because I don't like doing it, accounting stuff or something like that, right? And I hand it off to somebody else, and they actually kind of enjoy doing it, and they think about it so it doesn't get missed, and they do it. And I just see it happening, and I'm like, man, I never think about that anymore. Somebody else just does that. It's amazing. So I need to do more of that. But that's, I don't know. That's just something that my wife always encourages me to come up with a word for the year. And it was funny. I came up with the word lead, and that was the word she had already come up with that she thought would be a good word for me. So felt like a God thing there that he was leading us both in that. And that's what I'm trying to do, Dave. I'm trying to lead better, like lead a team instead of just doing it myself, just trailblazing by myself.
Well, there's a word for that. It's called micromanaging. And people you bring in, they don't want to be micro managed. And
that's right.
That goes back to my background of John Maxwell business coaching. And I have a really great business coach partner that we work together, and doing that kind of stuff is offering that kind of a training to someone like yourself that wants to transition and keep control, but with open hands, so to speak.
Yep.
So this has been a delightful conversation, and in fact, let's see. I have some questions that I ask.
Sure.
That it's the top 10 questions that I can ask you when I run out of things to ask.
Okay. I'm ready for them.
Okay. So I'll just give you one, and I want to keep our time together short, because, Americans have the attention span of like a gnat or something. So if you could sit down with anybody in the entire world, living or dead, maybe have lunch with them, ask them questions. And I'll share this with you. My friend John Maxwell, who I met first in 1988 at a Sunday school convention in Boston, and then later on I hooked up and getting coached by him. But he actually had the opportunity to interview the basketball coach at UCLA.
Yeah,
and
John Wooden.
John Wooden, the John Wooden.
Yep.
And John Maxwell's the kind of guy, he says, if I can interview or talk with somebody, he wrote down like 4 pages of questions to ask, so he wouldn't be going out there like just asking questions off the hip kind of thing.
Yep.
And I guess John Maxwell or John Madden,
John Wooden.
John Madden, that's a video game.
Yes. Well, yeah, he's a real person too.
Yeah. So John Wooden, I guess, invited him to stay for 3 or 4 days, and was, he's just the most endearing Christian brother, and that's how.
Cool.
Yeah. So all that to say, my question is, coming full circle back to what I'm going to ask you. If you could sit down with anybody in the world, alive or dead, you could sit down with, maybe have lunch or dinner, or just ask any questions you want, who would that be? That you could just meet with everybody?
For me, it would have to start with Jesus. That person, God in human form. That's the easy answer for me. Just he's my Lord and Savior, and that's I'm trying to walk like him. And he lived an incredible life. I mean, almost regardless, what you believe, he was a person in history. What you believe about him, and lived at an incredible time, and lived an incredible life. And is still, best-selling book is, about him. And, some of the other best-selling books like the Quran also talk about him.
Yes.
So, right. Just, almost regardless what you think of him, just fascinating person, incredible wisdom. But for me, he's like way more than that. So it would be him. Yeah, man, beyond that, I'm a sports guy. So I could think of sports guys I like. I'm an investor. So I could think of stuff like that. Guys that have built great businesses. And then, yeah, like historical figures like an Abraham Lincoln. Man, there's so many, but I'll just stick with Jesus. I'll do the easy Sunday school answer and just go with Jesus.
Well, the gospel according to John was his, that he was his best buddy. He traveled with him to, the Mount of Configuration, a lot of amazing things that he personally witnessed. And at the end of the very end of the book of John, it says that if everything we know about what we witnessed, we wrote down, there would not be a library big enough to hold all the books.
Yeah.
So all of the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and all the things that the Apostle Paul wrote are just really, snapshots, 30,000 views of what we could really know about this man that gave his life so we could have eternal life, and he rose from the dead, and he lives today. So that's pretty amazing. So I wanted to thank you for being with me today, and I may want to make sure I've got a banner for you right here. Let's see, where are you? Okay, here you go. All right, how about this? I got the join our newsletter to get people connected with you right now. threefoldrei.com. Join our newsletter. Creating passive income with a focus on faith and family. So I really appreciate you being with us today, and we'll kind of close things out here in a second. But thank you so much appreciate you being with me, man.
Yeah, my pleasure, Dave. Thanks for having me.